Hello, and welcome everyone. Today we are going to discuss how to detect and resolve today's high-profile threats, a joint webinar production presented to you by Ayehu and OPSWAT. And if you read the news headlines today, you know that businesses of every size from every industry and from all over the globe are vulnerable to high-profile threats such as ransomware and other malicious cyber attacks. And this places organizations at risk of both financial as well as reputational damage. And with an ever-increasing volume of complex cybersecurity incidents and dwindling resources, SOC teams are facing greater challenges than ever before. So Ayehu has teamed up with OPSWAT to show how a combined approach leveraging high-powered threat detection in conjunction with best-of-breed incident remediation can give organizations a unique defense capability. Let's introduce our presenters today. We'll start with OPSWAT, and I'll let George introduce their side. Go ahead, George.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm a product manager here at OPSWAT. I'm handling the MediDefender product line. I have here next to me our CTO, Taeil. Taeil, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, my name is Taeil. I'm the CTO at OPSWAT.
Okay, thank you. And my name is Nadivi. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development for Ayehu, and I'm joined by Sharon Cohen. Sharon, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the IT and Security Professional Services Manager in EMEA, basically here to show you the abilities today.
Okay. And to our audience, let me also just say up front that if you have any questions during the webinar, please submit them through your GoToWebinar chat client, and we'll try answering all of them during the Q&A segment right after the live demo. Okay, and with that, I'm going to pass keyboard control to George with OPSWAT, and he'll be doing the driving for the next few slides. So George, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to start with a couple of words about OPSWAT. Just a short introduction. The company was founded in 2002, 14 years ago, here in San Francisco. We have worldwide offices, R&D offices in Hungary, Romania, and Vietnam, and sales offices in Japan and Korea as well. We have 24/7 support. That's the most important part that we are able to offer to all our customers. We have like over 1,000 customers worldwide. We're able to offer them 24/7 support. We do have over 300 technical partners, and the fact that our technology is basically a platform, this is critical because most of the cybersecurity industry is relying also on our platform in order to leverage its capabilities. As I said, we have all the global offices, and we're expanding even more. What is very important to mention is the fact that we have, even though we are only like 150 people, like 100 of them are software engineers, so we're like very technology-focused company. Now, for MediDefender product line, this is a short diagram that explains basically the capabilities and also the modules that offers our MediDefender. The more important piece is the MediDefender core, which is actually leveraged by Ayehu's iShare solution as well. We offer multiple modules inside for file type verification, archive extraction, desensitization, multi-scanning, and vulnerability engine. We're going to focus mostly on multi-scanning and desensitization today, but just to give you a couple of ideas, everything that you see here are tied through a workflow engine. So basically, you can configure different profiles in order to leverage all the capabilities, not just one of the features. Now, because this is the core technology, we have like different modules that are used together with the MediDefender core technology in order to be leveraged for different use cases. So if you have if you want to protect your email server, we have a second layer of defense. We have different deployments for email, which is going to integrate directly with your solution, and you can use it for either Office 365, on-premise, Exchange integration, and so on. For proxy, we integrate with ICAP, and we have like different solutions, especially for kiosks, which is leveraged by all nuclear and energy industry in US. Now, going forward to talk a little bit more about what we actually do at OPSWAT and how we actually try to invest more time in doing our research a little bit better. So, the fact that we are working with a lot of anti-malware engines, we have our on-premise solution with 32 engines and the cloud solution with 42. We do our own internal research. As a small disclaimer, this sample set, the sample set we used for this test wasn't, let's say, clearly sanitized. We didn't remove the PUAs and so on. Only the malware samples were flagged as malware by at least 3 engines. So, as you can see, the detection ratios for the engines that we have in we have partnerships with starts from 7% up to 92%. And this is something that is very concerning for all our customers. The fact that using only one engine is a huge risk, and even if you're going to use the one that's going to provide you 92%, 90% is still not good enough. You can see a lot more details about the detection ratio based on the packages we're offering. Our solution comes in different flavors with multiple packaging options depending on the number of engines you would like to buy. Based on the number of engines, of course, the detection ratio of those engines, some aggregated will increase more and more. You can get up to 99.9% with 20 plus all the custom engines. Right now, we're offering the cloud solution with only 14 engines, but this is something that's going to grow very soon. Now, the most important part is that the more engines you have, the faster you're going to respond to an outbreak. Okay, so even though you have like zero-day attacks are very popular right now, everybody's talking about them. If you're going to have only one engine, there's a high chance it's not going to flag it as malware any 0-day. But the more you have, there are higher chances for it to be detected. You can see here that only after like 3 days it started to actually increase detection ratio. And this is like a very quick study about how it actually gets flagged by multiple engines. As you can see, at the beginning, only 4 out of 40 engines flagged as malware. After a day, started picking up. After 3 days, 17 out of 43. But that means that you need at least, I mean, we recommend 20 engines, but it's up to the customer how many you want to buy. As you can see here, with 4 Defender core with 4 engines, you need like 36 hours to flag this, to detect this malware. With 16 and above, this is flagged as a 0-day, and you're going to be protected from day 1. Now, this is an outbreak report that we have it published on our blog post, in a blog post on our blog. What's important here is for you to actually see the fact that there are multiple anti-malware engines. There are different ones that are flagging each outbreak separately. So it's not you cannot rely only on one solution that's going to flag everything. You need to have diversity in order to aggregate all those results to get a better detection. But with the more engines you have, there's a great chance for false positives as well. And this is one of the biggest pain points when it comes to multi-scanning. There are like 3 big problems. One is speed, the other one is false positive, the other one is cost, of course. But when it comes to false positive rates, this is something that is concerning for the customers because there are problems when a false positive can actually interrupt a very important flow. So, as you can see here, depending on how aggressive is an engine, the detection of the false positive, I mean, the increased value of the false positive can also affect the productivity. So, the more aggressive is to detect outbreaks, the higher chances are for false positives. And this is very hard for you to find like a balance because you don't want an engine that's going to flag everything as malware, but at the same time, you cannot take the chance to consider, yeah, this is a false positive, I'm just going to ignore it, and actually to be an outbreak and to have a ransomware in the organization afterwards. I think it's very important to mention a couple of things about content disarmament reconstruction. It's our data synthesization solution. Basically, we reconstruct any of the productivity files, strip off any embedded scripts or macros objects that might be malicious, and we're going to keep the content, we're going to keep the usability and so on. As an example of this presentation, as you can see, there are animation presentations. This was sanitized. You don't have, you didn't lose the content or the animation and so on. So we're going to keep everything when it comes to usability, but we're going to strip off any kind of embedded objects that might be malicious. And I think this is one of the examples that are very important. Whenever you deploy something, and data synthesization, actually, our solution is used inline, and this is our recommendation. Used inline, sanitize everything while behind the scene you analyze. This is an example with two engines that are flagged by heuristics. Most probably will, I don't know, most of the people that are going to see this are going to say, yeah, it's a false positive, but actually it became 3 weeks later to be a huge outbreak. And if you sanitize from day one, you can still check that file. You're not going to be exposed to any risk. Social engineering is working quite effectively here, so better be safe than sorry. And this is something that you're able to leverage once you deploy MyDefender core. You're able to leverage also data synthesization, not just the multi-scanning piece. There are a couple of examples on our website. You can go test them. There are a couple of example of some simplified files that might be malicious, but they're not. An embedded JavaScript that just updates a date or something like that, that will help you understand a little bit more the concept. And that's about it. I'll pass it to Guy from here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, George. So now, here's a little bit of information about Ayehu. We were founded in 2007 as a bootstrap startup by our 2 founders, Gabby and Yaron. We have one product, and it's called iShare, currently in release 4.8, first generally available back in 2009. So very robust, very stable at this point. We're very proud that Gartner named us their cool vendor in IT automation for 2016, which is sort of like being named Miss America if there was a pageant for data center products. We've got about over 150 customers, all very large, recognizable companies. We are funded by a Silicon Valley VC called BGV, and the B in BGV stands for Eric Benamou. Some of you may recognize that name from when he was the CEO of 3Com and the chairman of Palm Computers. He's now the chairman of our board. And Ayehu has offices in Tel Aviv, where we do our R&D, New York, where we run professional services, and we're also now in the Bay Area. And we are also very excited that we just completed our 2nd consecutive year of record growth. Okay, why are security teams falling behind? And why automation for those security teams? Well, the reason is very simple. People just don't scale very well. Many of the attacks upon organizations these days are automated themselves, and it's just plain common sense that the response to those attacks should be automated as well, so an organization can maximize its odds of survival. And some people might be saying, all right, well, if it's, what if instead of automating our incident responses, we just hired more people? Well, that's hard to do because there's not a lot of cybersecurity people out there to begin with, and the ones that you'd really want to hire are awfully expensive. Not only that, but there's huge demand for them. According to Cisco, globally, there are 1 million cybersecurity job openings, and demand for cybersecurity specialists is expected to rise to 6 million globally by 2019. That's just 2 years away. And there's going to be a projected shortfall of 1.5 million people. So there's a lack of 1.5 million cybersecurity people. So you can look to hire more people if you want, but you'll be competing with the rest of the world, which is desperately seeking them out as well. But what if you've got a good, talented cybersecurity staff already, and instead of hiring more staff, you simply leveraged automation to make those people far more effective? Automation can be a cost-effective force multiplier that lets you extend your existing staff's knowledge, skill, and experience way beyond their existing work hours without adding anything new to their workload. In fact, quite the opposite. Automation can actually have the effect of reducing the work burden on your current staff, which would free them up to focus on more critical and more important things. Is automating security tasks an acceptable approach to handling the surge in cybersecurity attacks? Well, Cisco certainly thinks so. In their 2016 annual security report, they stated that automation helps to reduce time to detection, containment, and remediation of an incident. It also reduces false positives, which George just spoke about, so security teams can stay focused on more important things. And this is a clear validation that automating security operations has gone mainstream and is not only accepted, but encouraged. In fact, we've seen many organizations who consider automated remediation of cybersecurity incidents to be a best practice. Okay, so what would automating the response to cybersecurity threats look like? Well, first off, it's going to start with an event. The event can be something detected by a SIM, for example, from Intel Security, HP, or IBM, or even a request to investigate something that comes in from the iShare user-facing self-service portal. Now, that event is going to feed into iShare, the automation nerve center, if you will, that ties all the pieces together in the scenario. And what's going to happen then is iShare will trigger a scan using OPSWAT's Meta Defender. And OPSWAT will do its magic, then return the results back to iShare. iShare will then take the results and can forward them to a security analyst along with suggested next steps for remediation. The security analyst can then also use iShare to automate and thus accelerate the remediation actions needed to shut down the threat. Alternatively, iShare can also be configured to execute the remediating actions itself automatically. Now, once a machine or a network is infected and malware begins inflicting damage on your environment, an organization's only hope lies in the speed of its response. If you rely on a manual response, then there's a far higher likelihood you'll lose to the bad guys. And when it comes to today's high-profile threats, speed of response is critical to defeating threats. Okay, we're going to be starting the demo shortly, but before we do, I want to show you a screenshot of one of our major interfaces. This is the Playbook or Workflow Designer interface for iShare, and this is where we build the automations that remediate cybersecurity incidents. So on the left, this is our toolbox, and this is where we provide you with over 500 pre-built activities right out of the box. And many of these activities are very platform specific for things like Active Directory, Amazon Web Services, Cisco routers, SQL databases, VMware, on and on and on. You can think of the activities in the toolbox as Lego building blocks, and you simply drag and drop them onto the drawing board in the middle of the screen. And all you do is position the activities in the order you want them to execute. You add whatever branching logic or looping logic you need to handle various what-if scenarios. And when you've got everything lined up just the way you want, that comprises a security playbook. So that's how you build playbooks from scratch, but if you want a running start, then you just go over to the templates library here on the right, where we have over 150 pre-built workflows and playbooks. And these are going to be some of the most common tasks any data center or security operations center is likely to encounter. A fun fact about these, most of them were originally built by or suggested by our clients. So they originated in some very large, very complicated real-world environments where they were designed, debugged, streamlined, and eventually, with our client's gracious permission, we turned those workflows into templates that we include with the base product. And then finally, if you've ever worked with a tool like Visio to create something like an org chart, then you are already fully qualified to use iShare and be very productive with it from day one. It's an easy-to-use drag-and-drop interface, and it makes building these automated security playbooks pretty much effortless. Now, here's the biggest takeaway from this slide. There is absolutely no programming required to build these security playbooks. None. No scripting, no coding. It's all just simple parameter configuration. And a security analyst, or any user for that matter, can be immediately productive with iShare, building and refining very sophisticated playbooks for just about any scenario from day one. One more slide here. In order to facilitate rapid responses to cybersecurity incidents, no matter what platform they're touching in your environment, iShare integrates with many of the most popular ITSM tools, network monitoring systems, messaging systems, and security tools on the market. And these are also very simple to integrate, usually requiring little more than login credentials and a server address. And this allows iShare to be your single pane of glass for orchestrating cross-platform security playbook automation throughout your organization's entire infrastructure. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the live demo. And while we're transitioning, we're going to do a quick poll about high-profile threats in your organization. So please take a moment to respond to the poll that is now on your screen. And also, just as a reminder, if you have any questions you'd like to ask our team, please submit them via the GoToWebinar chat panel on your screen. And we'll be happy to answer all your questions following the demo. And we should have the results for you here shortly. So if I can take care of that. All right. Okay, there are the results. Very interesting. Okay, thank you all for responding to that poll. And let's go ahead and change presenters to Sharon Cohen, and he's going to take you through a live demo on dealing with high-profile threats. Sharon, take it away.
Thank you, Guy. So I'm jumping to the iShare and McAfee. Tell them when you can see the screen.
Yep, we can see it.
Oh, great. So we will start with the demo, and then I'm going to pass through and show you the platform that we're all waiting to see. So first of all, a few minutes ago, I sent an alert to McAfee, an infected computer with a malware. And we want to start from there because basically that's the information you're going to get from a real-life scenario. So one of your tools is going to inform via the SIM or without. Okay, in this case, we're going to do it with a SIM. It's going to inform that there is a problem. Now, what I'm doing in the background while I'm talking is I'm pushing the SIM a little bit so we can analyze and get information. Now, in the back end, what we're seeing is iShare dashboard, which in a few moments is going to show us a new incident. Now, you can see that the incident was open, and it was open in iShare as well. So let's follow and understand what happened. So iShare already did a lot of things, but let's kind of wait a second before we respond and kind of understand what we got. So we got an alert. We crawled to the SIM, got more information relevant for us. In this case, the computer IP address, the name of the malware, and the location. And we did a small verification. In our case, it was just verify that the file is really there. In your case, it may be a little bit more. Then we did a process of gathering information, which involved OPSWAT. So basically, we submitted the file to MetaDefender and asked, what do you think we should do with the file? Is it true or wrong? By the way, you can enrich this process and adding Sandbox and other tools relevant to your organization, internally or externally, it can depend on you. And we can see the information received by the operator. So we get the IP address of the computer that we got from the SIM, the malware name, and the path. We did a verification, so we got status, which is okay. We got the information from MetaDefender, so what engine found it problematic. The profile was file scan, and the action is blocked. So based on what I'm seeing as an operator, I can understand that there is a real attack there. So it's not a CNC command. It's not infecting other computers. It's blocking. The recommendation is to block the specific attack on a specific computer. So I'm not going to do the full automation, which is quarantine and mediation. I'm just going to do a mediation because I want to save time, and I don't want to affect the other computer, or the user computer. So what we're doing to stop the issue is basically we're deleting the file. By the way, if we are failing in deleting the file, we're going to restart the machine and do that again. And we can add other features like killing processes, scan the computer, re-imaging, or whatever we think is relevant for us. But that's your procedure. And again, it's really important for us to say that we're going to suggest the procedure, but in the end, we're going to implement your own procedure, the one that you are following every day. So we are not going to tell you, you have to do something in a specific way. And what we are seeing here is that we succeeded in deleting the file. We acknowledged the SIM. So let's kind of jump to the SIM and see exactly what happened. So the alert was cleared. It no longer exists. We closed the incident, so in the background, we don't have anything else. And we informed the operator. And you saw that the back end of my screen. It's going to jump in a second. you saw that the procedure was done. Now the information I send, of course, is depending on what I want to show. Now that's our demo, just to show you how fast it is. So the full procedure took about, and let's kind of see that specifically. It's ended in 2549, and it's actually started in 2404. So less than 1.5 minutes, we got all the information, make a decision, and by the way, we can always see all the steps that the system does, and of course, the response from the operator. So you can see that Sharon Cohen, which is myself, responded, and I said only remediate. So don't try to quarantine, which is important. Sometimes the CEO computer is going to be infected, and I'm guessing none of us really want to stop the CEO from working. So if it's not critical, we want to fix it without causing additional problems. So that's where the human decision actually going into the process. And let's kind of follow the process and understand what we did. So you can see that we're breaking the process to a few steps. The first step is classification. So we got the information from the SIM. We need to classify it and understand what kind of information is it. Is it a malware? Is it a brute force? Is it a DDoS? What kind of information is it? And what kind of parameters we need from it. Then we're doing verification. Again, if you remember, in our phase, the verification was only check if the file really exists. So if you got the information from an antivirus, for instance, and the antivirus say, oh, we fix it, we quarantine it, the file will not be existed there, so we don't have any actions to do, or maybe we want to do something else, but that verification will fail, then we got the information to the operator. Next, we do the gather information. In this case, it was using OPSWAT. Now, you can enhance it or use your own tools to do the verification. It's really important, the verification gather information, of course. It's really important that you will get all the information that you usually gathering. So you will have a full picture of what kind of incident you're going to make a decision on, and you can add to the information what should be the decision based on what kind of information. So as guys said, we can do the automatic response without human in the middle, but we are strongly advised that you do that, because in real life you have between 80 to 95% false positive, and we do not want to take the action based on a false positive detection. Okay, so that's the most important part. Next part, and I do want to show you that's the communication method. Okay, so that's how we define a configuration for the communication, and you can see that the original message is a template. So basically the information is dynamically generated. That workflow will work for any malware existed in my organization. It's going to give me the information relevant for me. And if I want to add more information, I can. I can do that as much as I want. This platform is going to be in-prem. It's going to be in your control. It's not communicating with us, so no breaching, no remote control whatsoever, no leaking of information from us, and you can control your procedure. And after that, you can see the option for the operator. So we have quarantine, remediation, full automation, and none of them which might be either a false positive or we don't have a procedure for that and we need to create an ad hoc procedure. And then of course, we're going for the quarantine and remediation, and you can see the full process that we're doing there. Now, after we review this procedure, I want to show you how easy is it to really start working with a platform. So I created a new slide, and you can see the designer is clear, and that's how you're starting. So again, the same way that guys say, we have what we consider the Kickstarter. So you have your templates, okay? You have the more than 120 templates in the right, actually more than 150 today. And the only thing you need to do is choose the right template for you and drag and drop it. While you're doing that, iShare is going to generate the full logic. Okay, so you have the full logic. In this case, we drag a zombie user. So basically, all the users that haven't been logged into the system for the last 120 days. And we can follow the procedure, and we can do that in a second. But we will need to tweak it to our environment. So in this case, we are creating a list, which is good. So that's just the header. And then we are getting all the users. So you might put a user in a different container, which you need to change. And I'm guessing the same as my place, the Active Directory is not ADSRV. In my case, it's RNDDC. I need to change it. So that's all the changes I need to do to that part. And then we are filtering the information. We are counting how many users we have. we're running for each one of them, getting the logo name, and then asking the Active Directory for the same username to provide the last login date. Okay, and again, I need to change it to match my Active Directory, so I need to change it to match my RNDDC. After we're doing that, we are making a difference. So basically, we are checking how much time in days pass from today to the last login. If it's more than 120 days, we're going to add it to the report. But let's say that I don't want 120 days, I want 30 days, because my policy is 30 days, that's a problematic user. So if it's more than 30 days, and I just change it, that's all I need to do. So if it's more than 30 days, it's going to generate a report. But I want to take the next phase. I want to disable the user and then send me a report just to make sure that he cannot log in because he probably either on vacation or he left the office. And I don't want to keep it open. So I'm just going to search for one activity, disable. So I'm looking for disable account, okay, one activity. I'm just going to drag and drop it, and I just need to fill out the information. So the login username, it's that activity, the one that's getting the information. So it's get username. And the Active Directory, again, RNDDC, you're already familiar with it. And that's pretty much all I need to do. Right now, if I'm going to run this flow, what it's going to do is going to run for all the users in the OEU container, in the user container, and look for each one of them and see if one of them haven't been logged in for more than 30 days. If it didn't, it's going to disable his account, creating a log, and send it, oops, it's going to send to admin. Now, I don't know who's an admin, but in my case, my name is Sharon, so I want to send a report to myself. And that's it. That's all I need to do to make sure that my procedure will run and give me the result that I want. So that was a quick example of how to use a template and what you're getting from there. But I want to show you just the key features of iShare and how easy is it. So you saw that we are scriptless. We don't need any scripts. We are visual tools, so you can see exactly what we are doing. We are agentless, which is really important. So deployment is fast. It's minutes and not hours, weeks, or months. And everything is logged, and you saw that through the demo. So every action that iShare is doing is logging what we tried to do, when we tried to do that, if we succeeded or not, and what was the results. So you can review every action that the system did during the past or the present. The future, unfortunately, is unpredictable. So you saw the Active Directory, which is simple. I'm going to jump to the integration, which Guy showed you to one of the slides, and if you want, we can show you that later again. But today, let's talk just for the integration. So communication, and I want to show you that activity again. We actually support 4 methods of communication: email, SMS, phone call, which today we are giving you text-to-speech, so we can read you the message, and instant messaging, which is the tool you saw, usually for the operators. Now, all of those methods are two-way communication, which means when I'm sending you the information, I'm waiting for a response, and based on your response, I'm going to do something. Now, I can define a time frame when this activity is relevant for me, of course, when I want to communicate in specific methods, and how much time do I want to wait for a response for an operator or end user. It's the same for me. So 2 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, how much time is making sense to wait and not doing anything? So it's up to you guys. Now, I can send it to a user, but I can send it to a group of people at the same time. If I got a department, I can send to all of them. And we're supporting duties. So if you have your SOC, we're giving you out-of-the-box, calendar-based shift management that you're going to tell us, or you can define for you, who's going to be in a shift in which time. And in this case, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to communicate with the SOC. And when I need to communicate with someone in a SOC, I'm going to check who's on a shift and communicate only with that relevant personnel. Now, of course, iShare is all about saving time. So we're giving you this little checkbox, meaning that if someone responds, please tell everybody else that they don't need to do anything else. Don't waste their time for nothing. So that's a big key for us. Everything is saving time. Now, of course, how you're sending the information you already saw. Compression, which is zip and unzip, pretty straightforward. today we are supporting, actually not today, it's pretty robust already. We're supporting password manager CyberArk, so we can get information directly from CyberArk. You don't need to set up any information in our tool. We're supporting database, so every SQL database that you have, we can communicate, either getting information and update information. That's true to every tool that you either build internally or purchase, and there is no API for it. That's an option as well. Now, we're supporting scripting tool. So if you already build your own scripts, we're not going to tell you, please rebuild it in iShare. No, we can give you the ability to run your own scripts, okay? Just copy and paste the information, and we can change the script dynamically, so pushing information to the script during a process, and that will even enhance your script a little bit more or make it a little bit more robust. Now, of course, execution is really important. Now, we're supporting every command line utility you have. So either it was built internally or it's externally and we are not familiar with it. You can run any command utility that you want with or without parameter, which basically give you the ability to run any command on any computer. Now I'm going to jump a little bit, so we will reach a point that it's good for all of you guys. But I do want to mention a few more keynotes. So we support file and folder, everything from deleting a file, moving a file, and etc. But the most important part is we know how to read CSV file, Excel file, text file, and PDF directly from the box. So no additional installation required for us to be able to do that. And of course, we know how to write back CSV file, Excel file, and text file. So if you have a system, two systems, one of them know how to read CSV and the other Excel, we can bridge between them and translate the information as needed. Now, FTP and SFTP is straightforward, and I do want to show you just a few more things. I'm going to do that fast because we are running out of time. That's what I'm getting here. So, checking that the service is up via ping, telnet, and etc. Processes, services. Okay, so sorry, not service now, services. Everything from killing a process, a service, restarting, change, and whatever. SSH, which basically give you the ability to communicate with any Unix device there. So we are not limiting you to anything. And of course, web services. Okay, so we know how to communicate with any HTTP-based system, with or without cookies and parameters, which means that we are session-oriented. Now, that was iShare on a brief. We skip a lot of things, and I think it's important that to show you the abilities. And for that, I'm going to shift it back to you, Guy.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Okay, and let me go ahead and take the screen back. So if I could get, yes, there we go. Okay. All righty. So I promised there would be an opportunity for Q&A, and here we are. If you have any questions you'd like to ask our team, either OPSWAT or Ayehu, please submit them via the GoToWebinar chat panel on your screen, and we'll be happy to answer as many of your questions as we can. Okay, the first question is, can Ayehu integrate with Jira? And Sharon, I'll go ahead and let you answer that one.
Yeah, we actually have a pre-built integration with Jira. You can see that through the website. That's the slide we showed with the integrations. And it's pre-built completely. So no information required there, and unless you, the only thing that you do need to put there is username and password and where the Jira is.
Okay, and by the way, not only do we integrate with Jira, but iShare also integrates with ServiceNow, with BMC Remedy, with numerous other ITSM platforms. So it can document every step of what it's doing in the remediation process or the investigation, the forensic investigation process, and automatically create tickets that, that store all that for an audit trail. Well, we must have done an outstanding job of explaining how to deal with today's high-profile threats, because that was the only question that we've received. So if you have any other questions, please submit them now through your chat client.
I think, guys, you can jump back to the integration keep it on the screen. I think that will give other attendants maybe more information. Maybe we skip that a little bit fast.
Sure, we can do that. Let me make you the presenter 1 second. And we'll go back to your integration screen. Maybe you want to talk a little bit, Sharon, about how the integration with OPSWAT is done?
Yeah, so basically we are leveraging OPSWAT. Sorry, I'm going to the website so you can see it live. Basically we leverage OPSWAT API, and as you can see, we have multiple integrations. We always leverage the API from the vendor, which is really important for us. And most of our vendors fully certificate our integration, so that specifically for the security is really important for us. If you're looking at McAfee or ArcSight, and of course OPSWAT is on the roadmap, and hopefully they will certificate our integration as well. And it's important for us, for the end vendor, to acknowledge and accept the way that we work in with our API to make sure that we are not using something that might cause problems in the future.
Okay. One more question just came in. Can you talk more about the possible action rules that can trigger a workflow or a playbook?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the question was, what can trigger a workflow? Correct me if I misunderstood the question.
Correct.
Okay. So you can trigger a workflow by 4 main options. The first one is, of course, manual. The second option is via our self-generated self-service. So you can give users the ability to trigger a workflow that's going to put information there, and that's going to be it. The third option is you can schedule a workflow to run in a specific period of time. If you want to do advanced monitoring and other reports, you can do that. And of course, the action rules, which I jumped through, the action will give you the ability to trigger a workflow from any part of information. So you can send information to iShare either via one of our integrations, via syslog, SNMP, email, command line, web services, even an SMS and a phone call can be a trigger, and all of those information can be passed to our engines, and from there we're going to decide, based on the logic that we're going to define to the process, what kind of playbook or workflow you want to run. So hopefully that answered the question.
I think it did. If it didn't, then whoever submitted that question can request a clarification. Okay. Well, let me take back the screen, and we'll just kind of wrap up here. Let's see. How do I do that? Okay. Alrighty. So as a next step, both Ayehu and OPSWAT strongly encourage you to visit our respective websites to learn more about how you can detect and resolve today's high-profile threats. You have our information on the screen, and we'll leave that up for a little while after the demo ends, after the webinar ends. And that actually does conclude today's webinar. So thank you all for attending, and we hope you have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye, everyone.